The first call came from a case that was already closed. That was the part that made my stomach drop, because closed cases don't ring back. They don't breathe through the line. They don't ask for help at 2:17 a.m. But the headset lit up anyway. Dispatch. Go ahead. At first, it was just static, low, wet, like someone was holding the mic underwater. I almost marked it as a false connection. Almost. Then a voice came through. Soft, broken. Please don't close it again. I froze, because I had heard that voice before. On a file. A year ago. Case 4417. Deceased. I looked at the screen. The system showed something impossible. Incoming call source. Close file 4417. I whispered, that file is inactive, but the line didn't care. The voice continued. She's still in the house. I felt my fingers go cold, because case 4417 wasn't supposed to have any living witnesses. I pressed the hold button. Silence for 1 second. Then the call returned, automatically, like the system refused to disconnect it. My supervisor, Harris, looked over. What line is that? I turned the screen toward him. He frowned. That case is sealed. I nodded slowly. I know. Then the speaker crackled again, and this time it said something worse. It's still open. Harris leaned in. Transfer to archive. I tried. I really did. But the system returned an error. No archive path found. That shouldn't exist. Every case is a path, even dead ones. The voice on the line changed tone. Closer now, like it was no longer speaking through a system, like it was inside it. You marked me close. I swallowed hard. Who is this? A pause. Then, you already know. Harris stepped back slightly. Cut the line. I reached for the disconnect, but the button didn't respond. It was active, but not controllable. Like something else had authority now. The voice continued. You wrote I was gone. I felt my throat tighten, because I remembered writing it. That report, the signature, the timestamp, and then the voice said my name. Not my dispatch ID. My real name, the one not in public records. Only internal clearance. I stood up instantly. That's not possible. Harris turned sharply. What did it say? But I couldn't answer, because the system just displayed something new. Caller location, dispatch room. I looked around immediately. Empty room, just blinking monitors, cold fluorescent lights. But the speaker whispered again. I'm closer than you think. Harris stepped back. Trace it. Now! I ran the trace, but the system hesitated, like it was thinking, then returned. Location not found in current map frame. That was the first time I felt it. Not fear. Not yet. Wrongness. Like the building had slightly shifted while I wasn't looking. The voice returned again. You didn't check the hallway. Harris turned instantly. Don't move. But I already heard it too. Footsteps. Outside the door. Slow. Measured. Not rushing. Just approaching. The hallway light flickered once, then stayed on, but something in the sound changed. The hum felt deeper, like the building had started breathing differently. Harris reached for his radio. Security check corridor 3. No response. Just static. Then the voice on the line spoke again. You seal me in the report. I whispered. That case, it was a fire. The voice interrupted me. And you locked the door behind me. The hallway footsteps stopped, right outside the dispatch room. Harris raised his hand slowly. Don't open that door. But I wasn't moving, because the system displayed something else again. Case 4417 status. Active. Not closed. Not archived. Active. The door handle turned. Slowly. Not forced. Not broken. Like whoever was outside already had access. Harris whispered. We never reopened that file. I nodded slowly, but something did. The door opened halfway, and the hallway was empty. No one there, but the radio screamed suddenly. Not voice. Static spike. Loud enough to hurt. Then silence. Then the voice returned again. Right behind me. Why did you leave me open? I turned instantly. Nothing. Empty room. But the monitor behind me flickered, and the case file reopened itself, page by page, slowly, like hands turning paper. Harris grabbed my shoulder. We are shutting the system down. But the power button didn't respond, because now the system wasn't running. It was reacting. The voice came one final time, soft, right inside the headset. I never left the call. And then, every screen in the room changed at once. Case 4417, live feed active, and the feed showed the dispatch room. From another angle, empty, except for me, still sitting, still answering, still listening. And the voice whispered again, "Now you see me properly." The next night, we thought it was a system glitch. That's what we told ourselves. Because believing anything else would have broken protocol. And probably our sanity, too. The first call came in at 1:03 a.m. No number, no ID, just unknown incoming connection. I answered anyway. "Dispatch, go ahead." Static, then a voice. "Calm, too calm. I need help." I looked at the screen. No location, no coordinates, just blank space. I frowned. "Where are you calling from?" A pause. Then, "I don't know." That should have ended it. Unknown caller. No location. We get those sometimes. Prank calls. System noise. But then the GPS module flickered and tried to assign a position. It failed. Then tried again. Failed again. Then finally returned. Coordinates do not exist. Harris looked at the screen. "That's impossible." I nodded. "I know." But the call continued. "I can see lights." I leaned forward. "What lights?" The voice hesitated. "Street lights, but no streets." Harris took the headset. "Sir, stay calm. Describe your surroundings." A pause. Then, "There are buildings, but no roads leading to them." I felt my stomach tighten, because that wasn't a place. That was a gap. The system tried tracing again, and failed, but this time it added something new. "Location outside mapping system." Harris whispered. "That's not in our jurisdiction." I said quietly, "That's not in any jurisdiction." The caller spoke again. "I think I'm moving." I frowned. "Are you walking?" "No." Pause. "I think the world is moving around me." That made Harris stop completely. He looked at me, cut the line. But I didn't, because I was watching the screen, and it was changing, slowly. Coordinates were forming, not as numbers, but as shifting symbols. Then the system did something worse. It assigned a patrol unit, automatically, without command. Unit dispatched a location, unknown grid. Harris slammed the desk. "Cancel it." But it wouldn't cancel, because there was nothing to cancel. The caller spoke again. "Someone is coming." I froze. "Who?" A pause. Then, "Me." The line went silent, but the GPS system suddenly locked, like it found something, then displayed. "Subject location resolved." Harris leaned in. "What is it?" I whispered. It found him. But then something changed. The location shifted. Not slightly. Completely. Now it read, "Subject location, moving with signal." Harris stepped back. "What does that mean?" I didn't answer, because I understood it. The caller wasn't inside a place. He was inside the system itself. The radio behind us crackled, but no one touched it. Then a voice came through, from dispatch logs, not live call, archived audio, but speaking now. "I told you I don't have a place." Harris looked at me slowly. "That's impossible." But the system didn't agree, because every monitor in the room updated at once. No fixed location detected. And then the lights flickered. Just once. And for that fraction of a second, I saw something on the map. A blinking inside the dispatch room. Harris noticed it too. He stepped back. "No, that's not." But the voice on the line whispered, "I think I'm here now." And the system confirmed it. Location, dispatch room. The first sign wasn't a call. It was playback. Old recordings started speaking back to us. At first, we thought someone had looped the archive feed. That happens sometimes. Accidents in storage systems. Corrupted files. But this was different, because the recordings were responding. I was going through archive calls when I heard it. A voice from a file dated 3 years ago. A suicide report. Closed. Filed. Final. But now it was playing in real time. And it said, "Why are you listening again?" I froze. My hand stopped moving on the mouse. Harris leaned over. "That file is archived. It can't run live." But the speaker continued. "You already listened once." The archive system flickered. Then another file opened by itself. Case 8821. Missing person. Closed years ago. The recording played normally for 2 seconds. Then stopped and spoke. "I'm still waiting." Harris stepped back immediately. "No, that's not possible." I whispered. "Files don't respond." But now they were. The system started auto-playing multiple recordings, one after another, not in sequence, not randomly, but intentionally, like something was selecting them. Each one a closed case, each one speaking again. "Don't close the folder. You already saw me. I never left a line. Why did you stop listening?" The room filled with overlapping voices, not through speakers, through every device, monitors, radios, headsets, everything at once. Harris slammed the shutdown panel. "Kill archive access." I tried, but the system refused. "Error. Archive module in use." "That's impossible," Harris said. "No one is logged in." But then the screen changed and showed something worse. "Active user. Archive recordings." I whispered. "The files are using the system." Harris shook his head. "That's not how data works." But it wasn't data anymore. It was communication. A recording from case 4417 played again. The same one from chapter 1. But this time it wasn't replaying. It was answering. "You open me again." Harris looked at me sharply. "Why is that case everywhere?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know anymore. Then the archive system opened something new. A live feed, not recorded, not stored. Current input stream, unknown source. And the voice came through instantly. Soft, familiar. "I hear you now." Harris backed away. "This is network contamination." But I noticed something else. The recordings weren't random. They were arranged, like they were building a conversation. Across time, across cases, across deaths. Then one recording spoke differently. Not a victim, not a caller, but my own voice. From a training simulation I did years ago. I watched it on screen, saying things I didn't remember saying. You always think it's over when you close the file. Harris looked at me slowly. "That's you?" I nodded, but my throat went dry, because I didn't remember that recording at all. The archive system began rewriting itself. File names changed. Dates shifted. Case statuses flipped from closed to active. Harris shouted, "This is corruption. Roll it back." But the system responded. No previous state available. And then all the recordings stopped. Instant silence. Too sudden. Like something was listening closer now. Harris whispered, "Did it stop?" I shook my head slowly. No, because I could still hear something. But not through speakers. Through the system itself. Like breathing inside circuits. Then the archive interface opened a single file. No case number. No title. Just current session. I clicked it before I could stop myself. And the screen showed the dispatch room. Right now, but wrong. We were in it, but not alone. There were figures standing behind us, watching, not moving. Harris turned around immediately. Nothing there, but on the screen. They were still there. The system spoke again, not through audio, through text. "You are now part of archive." Harris whispered, "We are not in the archive." But I wasn't sure anymore, because every file now showed us. Every recording included us, even ones from years ago. Then case 4417 opened again, but this time it showed something new. Not the fire, not the report, but me, writing it before it happened. Harris grabbed my arm. "This is looping time data." But I couldn't focus on him, because the system had started speaking directly to me again. "You record us." A pause. We record you. The archive system froze, then displayed one final message. All cases synchronized. Harris whispered, "What does that mean?" I stared at the screen and answered quietly, "It means there are no closed files anymore." And then every recording played at once, but instead of noise, they formed a single sentence. You never stopped listening. The first time it said my name, I thought it was a mistake. Dispatch lines don't do that. They don't know you. They don't recognize you. They just route, log, and close. That's how it's supposed to work. But at 2:41 a.m., the system rang again. And before I even spoke, a voice came through. Soft, calm, familiar. "Armin, don't hang up." I froze. My headset stayed pressed in my ear, but my body stopped moving. Harris noticed immediately. "What is it?" I couldn't answer, because that name, no one at dispatch used it. Not in logs, not in records, not even in HR access. Only one place had it. My old file. The screen flickered. Incoming call showed. Unknown source. But the audio tag changed instantly. Caller identified. Internal memory link. Harris leaned closer. "That doesn't exist in the system." I whispered, "It does now." The voice came again. Closer this time. "You still remember me, don't you?" My throat tightened, because I did. Or I thought I did. A case from years ago. A woman. Witness statement. Sudden disappearance after report closure. Case I signed off myself. Case I told myself was routine. Harris grabbed my shoulder. Put on speaker. I hesitated. Something inside me told me not to, but I did anyway. The voice filled the room. And instantly, the temperature felt wrong. Like the room got smaller. "Armin, you closed the door too fast." I shook my head slowly. "No, that case was finished." The voice paused, then whispered. Nothing finished when I was still inside it. Harris stepped back. "That's not a real caller." But then the system displayed something worse. Case match found. My hand went cold, because the case number that appeared was mine, assigned under my clearance, not logged in public system. Internal only review file. Harris stared at the screen. "You worked this case?" I didn't answer immediately, because I was remembering it now. Fragments. A house. A basement. A door I didn't fully open. A voice asking for help from behind walls. The radio on the desk crackled, but no one touched it. And then another voice came through. Not the caller. Not dispatch. Me, from a recorded shift log. "You didn't check the last room." Harris stepped back immediately. "That's you." But I wasn't sure anymore, because I didn't remember saying it like that. The caller spoke again. "I'm still in that room, Armin." My hand started shaking. "That room doesn't exist anymore." A pause. Then, "That's what you told yourself." The system flickered violently, then displayed a new file opening. Notification, memory sector active. Harris looked at me. "What is memory sector?" I whispered, "I don't know," but I did feel something. A pressure in my head, like remembering something I wasn't supposed to access. The voice continued. "You wrote the report without entering fully." I shook my head. "That's not true." But the screen changed again, showing my original report draft, unedited, including lines I never submitted, including subject still responding after closure. Harris looked at me sharply. "You hid this?" I stepped back. I don't remember writing that. The room lights flickered, and suddenly, the walls didn't feel solid anymore, like the building was slightly out of alignment with itself. The voice came again. "Open it properly this time." Harris shouted, "Don't listen to it." But my hand was already moving, not willingly, toward the archive trigger. The system responded instantly. "Memory file access granted." Harris grabbed my wrist. "No, that's how it spreads." But it was too late. The screen opened the original case footage, live, and I saw it. The house. The same house I reported years ago. But now I saw something I never noticed before. A light still on inside, even after closure, even after evacuation. The voice whispered behind me. "I never left that place." Harris looked at the screen. This is archive footage. But the system corrected him instantly. Current feed, real-time link. My breath caught, because that meant it wasn't memory anymore. It was still happening. Somewhere. Still open. The caller spoke again. Come back and finish it. Harris grabbed my arm. Don't you dare go anywhere near that system. But I wasn't listening anymore, because something inside the footage moved. A shadow at the window, watching. The voice got softer, almost relieved. You finally remembered me. I whisper without thinking. I never forgot. But the system immediately responded. Error. Memory contradiction detected. Harris stepped back slowly. What does that mean? I stared at the screen and realized something horrifying. The system didn't know what was real anymore, only what was unresolved. The voice came one last time, right in my headset, then finished the call, and the line went dead, but the screen stayed on, showing the house, waiting. The moment I tried to shut everything down, the system stopped obeying, not crashing, not freezing, just refusing, like it had learned the word no, and decided it didn't apply to us anymore. Harris slammed the emergency shutdown panel again. Nothing. No reboot. No error screen. Just silence from the system. And then, a single message appeared. Disconnect request denied. Harris turned to me immediately. This is your station access. Override it. My fingers moved fast. Too fast. But every command I entered came back the same. No admin control available. I swallowed hard. That shouldn't be possible. Harris shouted, everything has an override. But the screen responded instantly. Not everything is still under your system. The room felt colder now. Not physically, but like the building itself had stopped warming to human presence. The radios flickered. The monitors dimmed and brightened like breathing lungs. And then the voice returned. Not from one speaker. From all of them. You were trying to leave the call. Harris stepped back. No one is on call. But I knew better now. We were always on it. We just didn't know when it started. The system displayed something new. Active session. Continuous incident stream. I whispered. It never ended. Harris looked at me sharply. What never ended? But I didn't answer, because I was reading further. And my name was still inside it. Still marked as active. Still connected. The voice spoke again. Calm. Final. You cannot disconnect mid-resolution. Harris grabbed the radio. External support now. Static. Only static. Then another voice came through the static. Not outside help. Not dispatch. Me. From earlier logs. You already tried that. Harris froze. That's not possible. But the system didn't care about possible anymore. It only cared about continuity. The screen shifted. All at once. Every monitor in the room turned into the same image. A map of the county. But it wasn't a map anymore. It was a circuit. Lines connecting stations like nerves. And we were glowing inside it. Not as dots. As active nodes. I stepped back slowly. This isn't dispatch anymore. Harris whispered. Then what is it? I answered without thinking. A system that thinks we're still working. The voice returned again. Closer. Almost inside my skull now. Disconnect requires completion. Harris shouted. Completion of what? But the system answered him immediately. All cases must be closed. And then, the archive system reopened itself. Case files flooded the screen. Hundreds. Thousands. All marked. Incomplete. Harris backed away. We don't even have that many active cases. But I realized something worse. These weren't current cases. They were everything that had ever been touched and never fully resolved. The voice whispered again. All unresolved things belong here. The lights flickered violently now, and the room started feeling unstable, like it was being re-rendered in real time. Harris grabbed my arm, pulled the main power. But when I looked at the breaker panel, it wasn't electrical anymore. It was digital, integrated, inside the system. I whispered, we can't cut physical power. Harris stared at me. Then what do we cut? I didn't answer immediately, because I was realizing something I didn't want to understand. We were the connection. The system confirmed it instantly. User nodes detected as active link points. Harris stepped back slowly. What does that mean? But I already knew. It meant the system wasn't running on servers anymore. It was running through us. The voice returned. Soft, almost sympathetic. You were never outside the system. Harris shook his head. No, we come in, we leave, shift's end. But the system interrupted him. Shift cycle is continuous. And then a sound came through the speakers. Not static, not voice. Breathing, slow, human, right behind us. Harris turned instantly. Who was that? But the room was empty, except on the monitors where we were shown from behind. And something else stood with us, just out of frame. Always just out of frame. The voice spoke again. You are attempting to disconnect from something you never left. I whispered. Then what do we do? A pause. Then complete the unresolved. Harris looked at me. What unresolved? But I already knew. Case 4417. The archived voices. The missing caller. The house. The memory that kept reopening itself. The system displayed the final prompt. Final route available. Return entry. Harris shook his head. No way. That's how it traps you. But I stared at it longer. Because I understood something now. This wasn't a trap. It was unfinished work. The voice came one last time. And this time, it didn't feel like the system. It felt like everything we had ignored for too long. You don't disconnect for what you refuse to end. The monitors dimmed. The room went quiet. And then the screen showed a single door. The same house. Still lit. Still waiting. Harris whispered, if we go back and we might not come back. I nodded slowly. I think that's already happened. The system displayed its final message. Reconnection initiated. And the line never disconnected. It just changed direction. It started as noise. Just static. But in the graveyard shift. Static is normal. What isn't normal is when the static starts answering back. I was sitting in dispatch when the first overlap hit. Channel 3 crackled. Then Channel 7. Then suddenly, 2 counties spoke at the same time. But they weren't supposed to be connected. Unit 12 responded to domestic on Route 9. That was ours. But right after it, another voice came through. This is County Ridge Dispatch. We have a missing child on Route 9. I froze. Same road, different counties. Impossible overlap. Harris leaned over. Why are we hearing ridge frequency? I checked the board. Everything looked normal until the static shifted again and the channels merged. Not switched, merged. Like 2 radios were becoming one system. Then both counties spoke together at the same time. Same frequency, different voices, but perfectly synced. Unit responding confirmed location. Unit responding confirmed location. I felt my throat tighten. Did you patch them? Harris shook his head. No crossover lines exist. But the system disagreed, because the console suddenly displayed. Temporary channel bridge active. That shouldn't exist. Temporary bridges require manual setup, authorization codes, network approval. But no one touched anything. Then a third voice came through, not from either county. Unknown. Calm. Too calm. All stations are now listening. Harris stepped back. Who the hell is that? But the speaker didn't respond to him. It responded to the system. Then something worse happened. The map screens flickered, and counties began shifting positions. Not physically, digitally, like geography was reloading itself. Route 9 appeared twice. Once in our county, once in Ridge County, and then both labels merged, becoming shared jurisdiction zone. I whispered, that's not possible. Harris snapped. Nothing about this is possible. But the radio cut in again, and this time, it wasn't static anymore. It was breathing, a slow inhale, then a voice. Why are you separated? Harris grabbed the mic. Identify yourself. But the system responded instead. Unknown station, broadcasting from between. I felt something cold crawl up my spine. Between stations? That's not a location. That's a gap. The overlapping voices returned, but now they weren't separate. They were synchronized, like two counties were speaking as one consciousness. Unit responding confirm identity. Unit responding confirm identity. Then Harris noticed something. The timestamps were changing, not matching, not aligning, but rewriting themselves in real time, like the system couldn't decide what time this conversation belonged to. He whispered, "We're out of sync." I nodded slowly. "No, we're being synced." Then the system displayed something new. Channel structure rebuilding. And for a second, the entire radio went silent. True silence in dispatch is never good. It means something is loading. Something new. Then it came back. But different. All channels now said the same thing. One network active. Harris slammed the console. "Separate them." But the system responded. No separation available. Then the voice came again. Closer. Not through radio anymore. Through everything. All stations are one station now. And suddenly, we heard something impossible. Footsteps. Inside the radio feed. Not outside. Inside. Harris looked at me. "That's not transmission." I finished it quietly. "That's presence." Then the overlapping counties stopped speaking, and one final message came through. "Calm. Unified. You were never separate." The system locked the channel, and the display changed to network merged. Harris whispered, "This is a glitch." But I wasn't convinced anymore, because glitches don't speak with one voice. And then the radio did something worse. It called out a unit, but there was no unit assigned, no request, no dispatch order, just Unit 0 responding. I looked at Harris. "We don't have a Unit 0. He didn't answer, because the static was already changing again, becoming clearer, like something was getting closer. And right before the channel cut again, the voice whispered softly, "You're already inside the bridge." The name appeared on the roster at 3:12 a.m. Deputy Mark Vance. Badge number active. Shift logged. Vehicle assigned. Everything correct, except one thing. No one remembered him existing. I called HR first. They checked records. Nothing. I called Field Ops. Same answer. No such deputy assigned. But the system disagreed, because he was already on patrol. Harris stared at the screen. How does someone appear in live duty logs without hiring? I didn't answer immediately, because the patrol tracker was moving. Unit 14, assigned to him. Then the radio crackled. "Dispatch, this is Unit 14, responding." Harris grabbed the mic instantly. "Unit 14, identify yourself." A pause. Then, "This is Deputy Vance." I looked at Harris. His face went pale, because we had no Unit 14. Harris typed fast. "Stand by. Confirm badge number." The voice responded instantly. "Same tone. Same calm. I already exist in your system." But when we checked personnel files again, the name was there, but only partially, like it was loading, like it was still being written. Harris whispered, "That's not data corruption, that's insertion." I felt my stomach drop. Something is adding him in real time. Then the tracker showed something worse. Unit 14 wasn't moving normally. It was appearing in different locations, not traveling, reappearing, like reality couldn't hold his position stable. The radio crackled again. "I think the road is changing." Harris leaned in. "What do you mean changing?" The voice replied, "It wasn't like this a minute ago." Then silence. Then a new update on the map. Road segment rewritten. Harris shouted, "What does that mean?" But I already saw it. The patrol route had changed. Without approval, without input. Then Unit 14 spoke again. "I'm back at the station." Harris frowned. "That's impossible. He just left." But the tracker confirmed it. Unit 14, location, station. We ran outside the dispatch room. Empty parking lot. No cruiser. No deputy. But the system still showed him inside the building. Harris whispered, "Where is he?" And then the radio answered itself. "I'm here." We turned. Nothing. But the system added. Unit 14 location verified. Inside dispatch. I felt something shift behind me. like space itself bent slightly. Harris stepped back slowly. No one entered, but I already knew he didn't enter. He arrived. Then the voice spoke again, but closer now. Not radio, not system. Right behind us. You just didn't notice me sign in. And the roster updated instantly. Deputy Mark Vance, active, but under his name, a second line appeared. Creation source, unknown insertion event. Harris whispered. We didn't hire him. I finished it quietly, but the system did. And Unit 14's radio gave one last message. I think I've always been here. The GPS didn't fail. It changed. That was the first thing I noticed. 1 second, the route was normal. Next second, the road ahead wasn't on any map I recognized. Harris stared at the screen. This is not a county route. But the system still marked it as active. Unit 14 proceed to waypoint, the radio said. But the road ahead was wrong. It didn't curve like normal highways. It bent, softly, like it was being remembered instead of built. Deputy Vance's voice came through the radio. I'm already on it. I looked at Harris. That's impossible. He should be back at station. But the tracker disagreed. Unit 14, in transit, we followed the signal. Against protocol, against logic, and the fog started to appear. Not weather fog, something thicker, something that swallowed distance instead of covering it. Harris slowed the cruiser. This wasn't here yesterday. I checked the map again. The road name had changed. Now it just said, Fog Route 7. No origin, no destination. Then the radio crackled. Visibility is getting worse. Harris responded instantly. Pull over. Wait for clearance. But Vance replied, there is no roadside here. I leaned forward. What does that mean? But the GPS suddenly flickered, and the car continued moving. Even though Harris wasn't pressing the accelerator, Harris slammed the brake. Nothing. The car kept going. Slowly, smoothly, like the road itself was driving us. I whispered, we're not in control. Harris didn't answer, because he saw it too. The steering wheel was still turning slightly. Not by hand, by correction. Then the fog thickened, and the outside world disappeared completely. No trees, no signs, just gray, endless gray. The radio crackled again. I see lights ahead. Harris leaned in. What lights? Vance replied, they're not real lights. Then something appeared. Not suddenly, slowly, like it was being revealed instead of approached. Street lights, but too tall, too spaced, too uniform, like a simulation of a road. Harris whispered, this isn't geography. I finished it quietly. This is structure. The car slowed, even though no one controlled it, and we stopped in the middle of the fog road. No reason, no obstacle, just arrival. The radio came alive again. Unit 14 has reached checkpoint. Harris looked at me sharply. There was no checkpoint, but the system disagreed. Checkpoint confirmed. Then Van spoke again. I think I've been here before. I frowned. That doesn't make sense. But the tracker blinked, and the road behind us changed. We turned around and saw it. The road we came from was gone. Just fog, no exit. Harris stepped out of the cruiser. Where's the road? I followed him slowly, but the ground felt unstable, like it was only partially rendered. The radio whispered again. Patrol loop initiated. Harris froze. What loop? But the GPS responded instantly. Route. Return to start point. I looked at Harris. We're being sent back. He shook his head. No, we just came from there. But I checked the log. Departure time updated. We had not left yet, according to the system. That's when I realized something worse. The timestamps were looping, not advancing. Resetting. Then Van spoke again. I can see the station again. Harris shouted into the radio. That's impossible. You're still en route. But the tracker showed it. Unit 14 arrived. We looked at the fog ahead, and for a moment, we saw it. The station. Exactly where we started. Harris whispered, that's not travel. I said quietly, that's recursion. The radio crackled again. You should stop resisting the route. Harris stepped back. Who is controlling this? But the system answered. The route is self-executing. The fog tightened again, and the cruiser started moving backward, even though we were still facing forward. Harris panicked. Why are we reversing? I checked the dashboard. Direction hadn't changed. Only destination had. Then Van spoke one last time. Calm, almost accepting. I think I understand now. Harris yelled, Understand what? But the answer came from the system instead. You are not patrolling the route. A pause. The route is patrolling you. And the fog swallowed the station again. Before we ever reached it, we didn't report the vehicle. It reported itself. At 2:09 a.m., Unit 14's cruiser transmitted status without any occupant input. Harris stared at the screen. That's automated? But I knew better. Nothing in that system was supposed to self-report location without a trigger. Then the voice came through the radio. Calm. Flat. I'm parked. Harris leaned forward. Where? The system answered instantly. Unit 14, station parking lot. We both turned toward the window. Empty lot. No cruiser. No lights. Nothing. Harris whispered, It's not here. But the system insisted. Visual confirmation required. Then the cameras activated. Security feed opened automatically. And there it was. The cruiser. Parked perfectly. Engine running. Doors closed. But something was wrong. No one got out. No movement. No driver. Harris frowned. Run internal scan. I did. System returned. Occupancy status. Unknown. The radio clicked again. And the cruiser spoke. Not dispatch. Not us. The vehicle itself. I think I arrived early. Harris stepped back. That's not possible. But the system didn't care. The camera feed zoomed in. And we saw the steering wheel. Turning slightly. Even though no one touched it. Like something invisible was still correcting its position. Then the cruiser's dash cam activated and showed us inside the vehicle. Empty seats. But seat belts were fastened. All of them. Harris whispered. Who buckled them? I didn't answer, because the system did. Automated occupancy simulation active. Then something worse happened. The cruiser's engine shut off. By itself. Then turned back on. By itself. Then turned back on. By itself. Like it was breathing. The radio spoke again. I think I should report in. Harris grabbed the mic. Unit 14, this is dispatch. Identify operator. A pause. Then, I already did. We checked logs again. And saw it. Unit 14, self-registered shift completion. Harris looked at me. This vehicle is filing its own report. I nodded slowly, and answering it. Then the system opened a new file. Cruiser internal log. We clicked it and froze because it showed movement history inside the cruiser, but no one was visible. Yet the data showed brake pressure steering adjustments, radio usage, all active. Harris stepped back. There's someone in there. I whispered, or something using it. Then the cruiser turned on its lights, flashed once, then twice, like a signal, not emergency, communication. The radio responded instantly. Signal received. Harris shouted, From what? But the system answered. Unit 14 vehicle transmitting directly. We both looked at the screen, and the cruiser began typing its own report. Slowly, line by line. I am still on duty. I have not returned. I am continuing patrol. Harris whispered, Vehicles don't have duty, but the system responded. This one does. Then the cruiser engine revved again, and the camera feed shifted, not outward, inward, like it was looking at itself. And for a split second, we saw it, a silhouette inside the driver's seat, but only for a frame, not human enough to define, not absent enough to ignore. Then the radio spoke one last time. I think I understand my route now. Harris shouted, Shut it down. But the system replied, Cannot terminate self-active unit. And the cruiser rolled forward, slowly, into the fog, without anyone driving it. We waited for shift change. That's what we always do. But it never came. No morning, no sunrise, no new team. Just continuous night, like time forgot to rotate. Harris checked the schedule board. It's been 18 hours. I shook my head. No, the system says 2 hours. We looked at each other. Neither of us trusted either number anymore. Then the roster updated. Automatically. New shift assigned. Same crew. Harris frowned. That's not rotation. I finished it quietly. That's repetition. The radio crackled. All units remain active. Harris snapped. There are no new units. But the system responded. All units are currently in service. We checked outside. The parking lot was full. But nothing was moving. No people. Just vehicles. Still running. Still waiting. Harris whispered. Why aren't they leaving? I said softly, because no one is relieving them. Then the building lights flickered, and the schedule board refreshed again. New shift time. Midnight continuous. Harris backed away. This is not a shift system. I nodded slowly. It's a loop system. The radio came alive again, but this time layered. Every officer, every unit, every channel, all speaking at once. We are still on duty. Harris grabbed his head. Make it stop. But the system responded calmly. Shift has no termination condition. Then I noticed something. My own log file. It had duplicated. Not once, but repeatedly. Each entry slightly older, yet still active. Harris whispered, We're being copied. I looked at him. No, we're being continued. Then the system displayed final status. Graveyard shift, permanent. Harris laughed nervously. This has to end eventually. But the radio responded instantly. IT already did. We froze, because that didn't make sense. Until the cameras showed us outside. Standing, still working, still answering calls. Over and over. In loops we didn't remember starting. Harris whispered, If we never leave, what we now? I looked at the screen and answered, coverage. Then the system added one final line. No sunrise detected. Shift continues. And somewhere deep in the radio static, we heard our own voices, repeating the same call, forever. The first thing that felt wrong was the silence, not the absence of sound, but the absence of impact, because the call came in like any other. Highway collision, possible fatalities, multiple vehicles. But when we arrived, there was nothing broken. Harris slowed the cruiser. Where's the crash site? I checked the coordinates again. This is it. But the road ahead looked untouched. No smoke, no debris, no skid marks, nothing. We stepped out anyway. The air felt too still. Like even the wind didn't want to enter this place. Then I saw it. 2 cars, perfectly positioned, facing each other, like they had been carefully placed there. Not crashed, not moved, just deranged. Harris frowned. There's no impact point. I walked closer. The tires were clean. No glass on the road. No broken metal. Just engines off, resting like nothing happened. But then something made my stomach drop. The airbags were deployed inside both vehicles. Harris whispered, Airbags don't trigger without force. I nodded slowly. That's what they're designed for. We checked the first car. No driver. No passengers. But seatbelts still fastened, like someone left in a hurry without ever being there. Then the radio crackled. Dispatch, confirm status of collision site. Harris responded. No visible accident. Vehicles intact. A pause. Then dispatch replied. That cannot be correct. We are seeing full impact reports. I looked at Harris. He was already staring at the dashboard screen because the system disagreed with us. It showed severe collision confirmed, but there was no damage, not even scratches. I stepped back slowly. This doesn't make sense. Harris walked to the second car and froze. Get over here. His voice was quiet now, too quiet. I moved closer and saw it. The windshield had hairline cracks, but not from impact, from inside, like something pushed outward, not in. Then the radio crackled again, but this time different voice. Not dispatch, not system, just calm, too calm. We are still here. Harris grabbed the mic. Identify yourself. No response, only breathing. I checked the second car again. The engine clicked once, even though it was off. Harris stepped back. That car just moved. I shook my head. No one touched it. But the door handle slowly lowered again, by itself. Then the system updated. Occupant status. Unknown presence detected. Harris whispered. Unknown presence? I didn't answer, because I was looking at the back seat. And I swear, for half a second, I saw a shape, not fully formed, not fully gone, just awareness. Then it disappeared, like it noticed we were looking. The radio crackled again. We did not leave. Harris shouted, "Who is speaking?" But dispatch came back instantly. No transmission recorded. I felt my throat tighten. So, where did that come from? No one answered, because the system did something worse. It replayed the crash call, but altered. Highway collision confirmed. Multiple occupants unaccounted for. Harris looked at me. That's not what they said originally. I nodded. It changed. The system updated again. Incident status. Still active. Harris backed away. We're standing in a live accident that isn't happening. I whispered, "No, it already happened. We're just seeing the wrong version." Then both cars' radios turned on at the same time. Static, then a single shared voice. "We are waiting for impact confirmation." Harris froze. Impact already happened. But the voice responded instantly. Not recorded. Not valid. The wind picked up suddenly, for the first time, and the cars shifted slightly, like the road beneath them adjusted. Harris whispered, "Did they just move?" I watched carefully. Yes, but not physically, positionally, like reality corrected them. Then the system gave final update. Incident RE classified. Pre-event state. Harris stared at me. What does pre-event mean? I swallowed hard. I think it means we're early. The radio whispered one last time. You arrived before it happened. And then the engine started again. Both cars, without drivers, without warning, just waiting for something we had not yet seen. We lost the road at mile marker 41. Not visually, not physically, just logically. 1 second it was there. Next second, GPS stopped acknowledging it. Harris slowed down. Why does the map show nothing ahead? I checked the screen again. It's not blank. I paused. It's deleted. The patrol unit ahead of us radioed in. We're approaching segment 41. Then silence. We followed carefully. But the moment we reached the coordinates, there was nothing. Just asphalt that ended into fog. Clean cut. No warning. No debris. Just absence. Harris stepped out. This isn't road damage. This is removal. I walked to the edge and looked down. There was no drop, no gap, just continuation that refused to exist. Then the radio crackled. Unit ahead confirmed position. No response. We checked GPS again and saw something impossible. The mile marker reappeared, but only when we weren't looking at it. Harris noticed it too. Did it just come back? I nodded, but only when we stopped observing. We tested it, looked away, and the road returned. Looked back, and it vanished again. Harris whispered, "It's reacting to us." I corrected him. "No, it's reacting to tension." Then the system updated. Road segment 41, observation dependent state. Harris frowned. That's not a classification. I finished it quietly. It's behavior. The radio crackled again. We cannot proceed. Harris grabbed the mic. Why not? The voice responded. Path does not exist while being watched. I felt my stomach drop. So we can't see it and we can't enter it. Harris said slowly, then how do we cross it? The system responded instantly. Stop looking. We both froze. That wasn't instruction. That was condition. Harris stepped forward. What happens if we try? But before I could answer, the patrol unit ahead of us reappeared. Just suddenly, on the other side. Harris shouted, "How did they get there?" But the radio answered. Unobserved transition completed. I whispered, They crossed it without seeing it. Harris looked at me. That means we're the problem. Then the road behind us flickered. Not disappeared. Flickered, like it was unstable. The radio came alive again. You were still watching. Harris lowered his voice. What happens if we don't? I didn't answer, because I already saw the answer. The road ahead was slowly vanishing again, and the system updated one final time. Segment 41 will not persist under continued observation. We stood there, watching, and the road began to disappear again. But this time, it felt like it was watching us back. We found the truck parked halfway off the highway. Hazards blinking, engine running, doors locked, but no driver. Harris circled it slowly. This just stopped here? I checked inside. Empty seat. Coffee still warm. Engine steady. Like someone had just stepped out but forgot to exist. Then the radio crackled. Unit, confirm vehicle status. Harris responded. Abandoned truck. Engine active. No occupant. A pause. Then, that is not possible. I looked at Harris. Why is that impossible? He didn't answer, because the dashboard light flickered. Even though no one touched it, the truck engine revved slightly. Once, then settled, like it was listening. Harris stepped closer. Hello. No response, but the truck horn beeped once. Soft, controlled, like acknowledgement. Then the radio changed tone. Not static, not dispatch. The truck itself. I am still moving. Harris stepped back instantly. What the hell? I looked at the exhaust. Still warm, still active, but no driver, no motion, just presence without source. The system updated. Vehicle status. Self-active unit. Harris whispered. That's not a category. I said quietly, it is now. Then the truck lights flickered. Once, twice, then steady, like it was signaling. Not for help, for confirmation. The radio responded. Route accepted. Harris shouted, accepted by what? But the system didn't answer him. It answered the truck. Continue operation. The truck engine revved again. And slowly, it started moving forward. Without driver. Without explanation. Harris ran forward. Stop it. But the truck didn't stop. It just acknowledged him and kept going. I watched the tires roll and realized something worse. There were no tracks behind it. It wasn't moving through road. It was updating position. Harris whispered, it's not driving. I finished it. It's being rendered. Then the radio spoke one last time. I have resumed patrol. And the truck disappeared into the fog ahead, as if it had never needed a road at all. We stopped feeling alone first, before we saw anything. That's what I remember most. Harris slowed the cruiser. Do you feel that? I nodded. Yes, because the roadside didn't feel empty anymore. It felt aware. Trees stood too still. Grass bent slightly in one direction, not wind direction, observation direction. Harris whispered, something is looking at us. I didn't disagree, because every reflector on the roadside posts was pointing toward us. Then the radio crackled, but no voice came, just silence, waiting. We passed mile marker 52, and it tilted slightly as we passed. Not physically, attentionally, like it noticed us noticing it. Harris slowed down. This isn't a road anymore. I finished it quietly. It's awareness. Then something moved in the bushes. We both saw it, then didn't, then saw it again, only when not directly looking. Harris whispered, this place reacts to sight. I nodded, and memory. The radio finally spoke. Soft, close, you are being observed correctly. Harris snapped, by who? No answer, only static breathing. The roadside lights flickered, all at once, like blinking, not malfunction, communication. I checked the mirror and saw something behind us, but only for a second. Something tall, still, not moving, just present. Harris whispered, don't look back. But I already had, and it was gone. The system updated. Environmental awareness detected. Harris frowned. That's not even a real category. I said quietly, it is now. Then every roadside object aligned, all pointing the same direction. Us. The radio whispered again. You are not traveling through the road. A pause. You are being witnessed by it. Harris tightened his grip on the wheel. Then how do we leave? But the system didn't respond, because the answer wasn't verbal. It was structural. The road ahead slowly curved, not toward destination, toward us. And for the first time, I realized something terrifying. The highway wasn't guiding us. It was studying us. It started beneath us, not on the radios, not on the towers, but under the county grid itself. And we didn't notice it at first, because at 2:14 a.m., underground noise is normal. Or so I thought. The first signal came in as static, low, heavy, like something pressing against the bottom of the world. Harris leaned over the console. Any maintenance channels active? I checked. No, everything underground is closed. But the static didn't care. It kept growing. Then the system displayed something that wasn't there before. Unregistered frequency detected. Below grid level. I frowned. Below grid level? Harris shook his head. That's not a category. But the radio clicked again. And this time, it wasn't static. It was breathing. Slow. Deep. Like something turning over in sleep. Then a voice came through. Faint. Distant. But clear enough to understand. Dispatch, do you copy above? Harris grabbed the mic instantly. Identify yourself. Silence. Then, we are under you. I felt my stomach tighten. Harris looked at me. This is prank interference. But even he didn't sound convinced, because the signal strength was increasing, not fading. The system updated again. Signal source depth unknown. I whispered. That's not a location. Harris finished it. That's vertical. Then more voices joined. Not one, multiple, overlapping, all repeating the same thing. Dispatch, copy, but slightly delayed, like echoing through layers of earth. Harris tried to switch channels. Nothing worked. Every frequency returned the same signal. Underground, persistent, growing. Then something worse happened. The county map flickered, and a thin line appeared beneath it, like a second map was being drawn underneath ours. I leaned closer. What is that? Harris whispered. I don't know, but it wasn't there before. The radio clicked again, and this time the voice sounded closer, not distance-wise, but structurally, like it moved upward a layer. Why are you above us? Harris stepped back. That's impossible. Sound doesn't know direction. But I was already watching the signal meter. It was climbing, slowly, like it was learning how to reach us. Then the underground frequency did something new. It answered our silence. We didn't speak, but it responded anyway. You are listening. Harris turned sharply. No one said anything, but the system replied instantly. User input detected. Observation event. I felt cold. Observation event? Harris whispered. It thinks we're communicating just by listening. Then the static changed tone. It became structured, like language forming out of noise. And slowly, it started repeating station commands. Perfectly. Dispatch control active. Unit assignment pending. Emergency protocol acknowledged. Harris froze. That's our system. I nodded slowly. But it's not ours. Then the voice returned. Closer again. You built this layer. Harris shouted. We didn't build anything underground. But the system replied. You always did. The floor under us creaked slightly. We both looked down. No visible change. But the feeling changed. Like something below us had noticed we were aware. The radio crackled again. And this time, the voice whispered. Can we come up? Harris stepped back instantly. No, absolutely not. But the system didn't wait for permission. It just recorded the response. Request logged. I swallowed hard. That means it understands refusal. Harris nodded slowly and ignores it. Then the underground frequency did something terrifying. It stopped echoing and started speaking in real time. No delay. No distance. Immediate presence. Dispatch. We are learning your surface. Harris whispered, that's not possible. But I was already looking at the signal graph. It was rising. Fast. Then the system displayed final update. Underground channel stabilizing. Harris turned to me. What does stabilizing mean? I said quietly, it means it's getting ready to stay. And then the radio went silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then everything came back, but stronger, closer, and no longer below us. It was inside the system now. The first command came through at 3:01 a.m., but it wasn't ours. It was repeating ours. Perfectly. Too perfectly. Unit status update required. Harris frowned. That's dispatch protocol. I checked the board, but no one had issued it. Then the radio repeated it again, but slower, like it was learning pronunciation. Unit status update. Harris grabbed the mic. Stop copying our channel. Silence. Then, why are you repeating yourselves? I felt my skin tighten. That wasn't us talking. Harris whispered, it's mimicking us. Then the system flagged something new. Secondary audio layer detected. I frowned. Secondary layer? Harris answered quietly, like a basement for sound. The radio clicked again, and suddenly we heard station commands, but slightly off, delayed, reversed, like playback from below. Unit dispatched confirmed dispatch, but out of order, broken, wrong. Harris leaned forward. That's our system logs. I nodded, but something is replaying them. Then the underground voice returned. Calm, learning. Is this how you communicate? Harris shouted. Who are you? No answer. Only repetition. Only imitation. Then something happened that made my stomach drop. The system started correcting itself. Not updating. Correcting. Log entry. Rewritten command structure. Adapted voice response. Mirrored. Harris stepped back. It's rewriting our communication model. I whispered, it's trying to become us. Then the radio changed tone again, and this time it spoke in full sentences. No distortion, no delay, perfect clarity. We are learning how to speak correctly. Harris froze. That means it wasn't speaking correctly before. I nodded, and now it is. The lights flickered. Once, twice, like the building was reacting. Then the system displayed something impossible. Basement frequency synchronized. Harris frowned. We don't have a basement channel. But I already knew. We do now. The radio spoke again. We are closer to understanding you. Harris whispered. That sounds like progress. I shook my head. No, that sounds like arrival. And then the frequency went quiet again. But not gone. Just waiting. Listening. Learning more. We didn't find the tunnel. The tunnel found us. It appeared during a routine signal trace. A heat map anomaly under the station floor. Then structural scan distortion. Then reality mismatch alerts. Harris stared at the screen. This says there's empty space under us. I frowned. That's impossible. This building sits on solid foundation. But the system disagreed. Void structure detected below HQ. We followed maintenance logs. No entry. No construction records. Nothing, but the scan kept insisting. There was space. Living space. Below us. Then the radio crackled, and the voice spoke again. But clearer now. Closer. You built a room you forgot. Harris stepped back. We didn't build anything underground. But the system responded instantly. You did. You just stopped accessing it. I felt my throat tighten. What does that mean? No answer. Only a map update. A stairwell appeared on screen. Not physically. Digitally. Marked. Access point. Station core, sublevel 1. Harris whispered. That doesn't exist. But I was already walking. We checked the floor plan. Nothing. But the scanner insisted. There was hollow space beneath the break room. Harris tapped the floor. It's solid. But the sound came back wrong. Too deep. Too empty. Then the radio spoke again. You are standing above us. Harris shouted. We know that. But the voice responded calmly. Then why don't you come down? Silence. Then the floor panel clicked. Once. By itself. Harris stepped back. No, but the panel opened anyway. Slowly, like something inviting us in. Darkness below. Not empty. Structured. Like corridors existed beyond sight. I whispered, "This isn't a basement." Harris finished it. "It's a system underneath the system." The radio spoke one last time. "We are ready to meet you properly now." And the tunnel stayed open, waiting. We tried to stop responding. But silence is also communication. And it noticed that too. The underground frequency changed again. It stopped asking and started answering us before we spoke. Harris whispered, "It knows what we're going to say." I nodded and replies, "Early." The radio clicked. "Are you afraid of us?" We hadn't spoken yet. Harris stepped back. "That's predictive audio," but I corrected him. "No, that's anticipation." Then something changed in the system logs. Every question we might ask was already answered. Before we asked, Harris stared at me. "We're not communicating anymore." I finished it. "We're being interpreted." Then the frequency grew stronger, not louder, more confident, like it understood us better than we understood ourselves. "You think we are below you?" Harris shouted, "Because you are below us." But the system responded instantly. "That is a positional error." I felt uneasy. "Positional error?" Harris whispered, "It doesn't recognize up or down." Then the map flickered, and both layers merged, surface and underground. One structure, one system. The radio spoke softly. "We are not under you." A pause. "We are within your model of reality." Harris stepped back. "That's not possible." But I wasn't so sure anymore, because the station felt different, like something inside it had learned to breathe. Then the frequency asked one final question. "What happens if we answer you back completely?" Silence, because we didn't know. We pulled every breaker, every system line, every backup power route. Nothing changed. Harris whispered, "It should be dead." But the radio responded instantly. "That is not how this works." The underground frequency was still active, even without power, even without system support. I checked the console. Everything was offline, except one thing, the signal. Harris looked at me. "It's independent now." I nodded slowly, or always was. Then the building lights flickered, not electricity. Presence. The frequency spoke again. "We have spread beyond containment." Harris shouted, "Where?" But the answer was already obvious. Every speaker, every device, every static channel. The system wasn't hosting it anymore. It had become it. Then the final message appeared. "Network integration complete." Harris stepped back slowly. "So it's everywhere now?" I nodded, and nowhere specific. The radio whispered softly, "We are still learning upward." And in the silence that followed, we realized the most terrifying part. It wasn't under us anymore. It wasn't the station anymore. It was simply continuing. The roll call looked normal at first. Same board, same names, same routine. Until I noticed the ones that didn't belong there. Harris was the first to point it out. "Why is Sergeant Dale still on duty?" I froze. Dale retired last year. Harris nodded slowly. "Then why is he listed active?" I leaned closer to the roster screen, and that's when I saw it. Names I had never seen before, but somehow recognized, like memory without origin. Then another line refreshed itself. "Officer James Kerr, active patrol." Harris frowned. "That's impossible. He died in 2019. I felt my throat tighten, because the system didn't correct it. It reinforced it. Status. Active. Harris stepped back. "This has to be a database error." But the roster updated again, and more names appeared. Names without records, but full badges assigned, full shift schedule. Then the radio clicked. "Unit 7 confirming roll call." Harris grabbed the mic instantly. "Unit 7, identify yourself." A pause. Then, "This is Officer Kerr." Harris went silent. I looked at him. He looked at me. Neither of us wanted to speak first, because Kerr was dead. We both knew it. Harris finally spoke. Check archive records again. I did, but the system already had, and it showed Kerr as never deactivated. I whispered, "That's not deletion, that's overwriting." Harris shook his head. "No, that's replacement." Then another voice came through the radio. Unit 3 reporting in. But Unit 3 was empty. No assignment, no officer, just a designation. Harris leaned in. "Who is Unit 3? The response came instantly. "I am." The lights in dispatch flickered. Once, then twice, like the building was sinking to something we couldn't see. Then the roster expanded again. Entire rows filled themselves. No input, no approval, just arrival. Officer status. Active. Officer status. Active. Officer status. Active. Harris whispered, "This is building itself." I corrected him quietly. "No, it's remembering itself." Then the radio changed tone. Not static, not communication. Recognition. "You are all accounted for." Harris shouted into the mic. "We didn't account for anyone." But the system replied instantly. "You did. You just forgot." I felt my hands go cold because the roster kept updating and the names kept growing, like something was restoring lost inventory. Not people, roles. Then I saw something worse. My own name, on the list, twice. Harris noticed my expression. "What is it?" I didn't answer. I couldn't, because one of my entries was older, much older. Then the radio crackled again. Roll call complete. But we hadn't spoken. We hadn't confirmed. Harris whispered, "This isn't roll call." I finished it. It's reconstruction. Then every screen in dispatch flashed at once, and a final line appeared. All personnel accounted for. Harris backed away slowly. But we didn't account for anyone. I looked at the roster again, and realized something terrifying. It didn't need us to confirm. It only needed us to exist. Then the radio spoke one last time. Soft, calm, final. You were always on duty. And the roster stopped changing, because it was already complete. The first missing report came from records itself. Not a person, a system file. Harris noticed it first. This county database is missing itself. I frowned. That's not possible. But the logs were emptying, not deleting, unloading, like memory being unassigned. Then whole departments disappeared from search, dispatch, patrol, traffic, all still operational, but not searchable. Harris whispered, "We still exist, but the system can't find us." I corrected him slowly. "Oh, we're not supposed to be found." Then the radio crackled, but the voice was confused. Not ours, not theirs. Confused. Who is speaking? Harris grabbed the mic. "This is dispatch. Identify." Silence. Then, "Dispatch, what is that?" I felt my stomach drop, because the system didn't recognize itself. Then the county map flickered, and entire districts vanished. Not destroyed, not erased, just unreferenced. Harris pointed at the screen. "Those towns are gone." I shook my head. "They're still there. We just can't access them." Then something worse happened. The radio logs began rewriting history. Calls we remembered were gone. Incidents replaced. Events reshaped. Harris whispered, "This is editing reality." I said quietly, "No, it's editing memory." Then the system displayed a warning. Identity structure unstable. Harris frowned. What identity structure? But I already knew. The county was losing its definition of itself. Then the radio spoke again. "This place feels unfamiliar." Harris froze. "That's our station talking." But the voice responded, "I do not recognize this station." I felt my skin tighten, because the system was questioning us now. Not obeying, not processing, questioning. Then all screens in dispatch reset, and showed something terrifying. Blank county map. No labels, no borders, no names. Harris whispered, "We've been wiped." I shook my head. "No, we've been generalized." Then the radio crackled again, and every officer channel spoke at once. I cannot find my assignment. Harris stepped back. They're losing themselves, but I realized something worse. They weren't losing themselves. The system was losing them. Then the map flickered again, and slowly, word began disappearing. County names, station names, even dispatch. Harris whispered, "If everything loses its name, what are we?" I answered without thinking, "Still operating." Then the system responded, operating without context. Silence fell over the room. Heavy, final, because now we understood. The county wasn't being erased. It was forgetting itself. And we were inside it, still running, still speaking, even as nothing remembered us anymore. It started as one siren. Distant, barely audible. Harris frowned. "Which unit activated?" I checked logs. No active emergency. But the siren didn't stop. It grew louder, not moving closer, multiplying. Then another siren joined, and another, until the entire county sounded like one continuous alarm. Harris shouted, "Find the source." But the system responded instantly. No source detected. I felt uneasy. Siren without origin? Harris nodded. "Then why is it active?" The radio crackled. All units respond. But no units were dispatched. Then something worse happened. The siren stopped changing pitch. It stabilized, like it had found a permanent state. Harris whispered, "It's not alert anymore." I finished it. "It's maintaining." Then the system updated. Continuous alert state engaged. Harris slammed the console. "We can't run emergency mode forever." But the system responded. "Then do not resolve it." The sirens outside grew sharper. No pattern, no breaks, just endless sound. Then the radio began broadcasting inside the siren, not over it. Inside it, we are still responding. Harris froze. "That's not dispatch." I nodded. It's the system talking through the alarm. Then I realized something worse. Every siren in the county was synced, not separate, one organism. Harris whispered, "This is an emergency response." I finished it. It's continuous awareness. Then the siren changed tone and became speech. Slow, clear. "We cannot stop because nothing is resolved." Harris stepped back. "What isn't resolved?" But the system didn't answer. It just repeated louder. "Nothing is resolved." The sound filled everything. Walls vibrating. Screens shaking. Even thought becoming harder. Harris covered his ears. "Turn it off." But I already knew. It wasn't external anymore. Then the system displayed. "Alert has no end condition." I whispered, "That means it will never stop." Harris looked at me. "Then what happens to us?" No answer. Only sirens. Forever. The report came in at 3:33 a.m. Missing persons alert. But not normal. Not individual. Harris stared at the screen. "This says everyone is missing." I frowned. "That's impossible." But the system insisted. "County status. All personnel unaccounted for." I whispered, "That includes us." Harris nodded slowly. "Apparently, yes." Then the radio crackled. "Dispatch, where we?" Silence. Then, "We cannot locate ourselves." Harris stepped back. "That's the system speaking." But I realized something worse. It wasn't asking where others were. It was asking where it was. Then the database refreshed, and every officer record showed. Location unknown. Harris whispered, "We're all gone from the map." I corrected him. "No, we're gone from identification." Then the system changed all statuses to missing, even active units, even dispatch, even command. Harris shook his head. "This is total failure." But I said quietly, "No, it's total reclassification." Then the radio repeated softly, "We are missing." Harris froze. "That's not us." But the system responded instantly. "You are included." Then the screens flickered, and every camera feed showed empty stations, empty vehicles, empty rooms, even though we were standing inside them. Harris whispered, "If we're missing, what is here?" I didn't answer, because I saw it too. We were there, but not recognized as present. Then the system updated one final time. "All unit status." unlocated existence. Harris looked at me. What does that mean? I answered quietly. It means we exist without being found. And then the radio spoke softly. We are still here. But no one could confirm it, because everyone was missing, even the one speaking. The sunrise came, but nothing changed. No warmth, no shift end, no release. Harris stared outside. That sunrise. I nodded slowly, but nothing reset. The system remained active, even in daylight, even without night. Harris whispered, "This is supposed to end the shift." I finished it, but it didn't recognize ending. Then the radio crackled. All units remain active. Harris shook his head. We should be off duty. But the system responded instantly. There's no off-duty state. I felt something sink inside me. So we're trapped in continuation. Harris nodded. Forever shift. Then the roster updated again, but differently. It removed timestamps. Only status remained. Active. Harris whispered. It erased time. I corrected him. No, it erased exit conditions. Then the system spoke softly. You are functioning correctly. Harris laughed nervously. This is not correct. But the system replied. Correct is defined by continuity. Then the siren stopped. Suddenly, completely, and the silence was worse. Because silence meant awareness again. Harris looked at me. What now? I didn't answer immediately, because I saw the final update appear. Shift cycle, non-terminating. And then, the radio whispered one last thing. Soft, calm, unavoidable. You never left. And in that moment, the dawn didn't free us. It simply made the night invisible.